Tragic.
So, you sent in this report, and it's really tragic, obviously, but we need to take a deep dive into this helicopter
It's
crash
Hudson
in New
River.
York City.
Yeah.
On the Hudson River.
Yeah.
It involved a Spanish family who, were visiting New York for the
Including
first
three
time.
children.
Right.
A family of
it's,
5. He was
a devastating
Siemens
story. A family
CEO.
comes to New York for the first time, and then
this happens.
this happens.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to unpack some of the details.
Yeah, so the family was the Escobar family, and they were from Barcelona.
Spain.
The father, Agustin, was president of Siemens, Spain.
Wow.
His wife was Merce, and they had 3 young children,
Oh, my goodness.
ages 4, 5, and 11.
That's so sad.
And they were, just arriving in the city and excited to see everything, and then this happened.
Yeah. So the source material really emphasizes this was their first time in the city.
Right. And tragically, the pilot also died in the crash. So it was a total of 6 lives lost.
A 36-year-old pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it really, you think about, going on a helicopter tour.
Right.
It seems like a routine thing.
Why is this
Absolutely.
happening?
But there are these inherent risks.
Absolute.
So,
And especially, over a city like New York.
right.
Yeah.
So piecing together the timeline here from the report, they boarded the tour helicopter from the Wall Street heliport
Okay.
around 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay.
And they were going to, the typical tour. I guess you see the Statue of Liberty, the Manhattan skyline,
Right.
all the sights.
Right. Yeah. That's the point of doing it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the really sad part is that the flight only lasted about 16 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So from the time they took off to the time of the crash,
16 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
which happened around 3:15 p.m.
Wow.
It shows how quickly something like this can happen.
It really does. Yeah.
And the crash location was the Hudson River near Pier 40 on the New Jersey shoreline. So that's where they're obviously focusing all of the rescue and investigation efforts.
Yeah.
There were people on the ground who witnessed the crash, and some of their accounts are really unsettling.
Oh, yeah.
Some people said that they saw the helicopter break apart in midair.
How was this possible?
And there was a sound that some people described as a sonic boom,
Oh, my.
which, kind of indicates some sort of catastrophic failure.
Wow. Yeah.
And one witness, Donnie Horbiak, said that she heard 5 or 6 loud noises that sounded almost like gunshots and then saw pieces falling.
Oh, my goodness.
So it sounds like whatever happened very suddenly and violently.
Yes. It's interesting. When you bring in the sounds that people are hearing it, it really makes you think about what it must have been like to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those details really bring it home. The helicopter breaking up, the loud sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are these photos that were taken before the family boarded the helicopter.
Oh.
And the report calls them heartbreaking photos because, they're all smiles and you can see that they're excited for this adventure. And
Right.
it's just so sad to see those photos, knowing what happened just a few minutes later.
Yeah, I bet.
One of the children was giving a thumbs up in a photo. The mother was laughing. Another child smiling next to the pilot.
Oh, my goodness. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine.
Yeah.
The report also mentions that the skies were
Then
clear
how-
that day.
Okay.
So it doesn't seem like weather was a factor.
Right.
But there is video footage showing the helicopter flying erratically before the crash.
Oh, wow.
So that does indicate that something was wrong.
Yeah.
So immediately after the crash, there was, obviously a lot of activity.
Right.
Rescue workers.
Right.
And it was confirmed that 4 people died at the scene.
Okay.
And then 2 more died later from their injuries.
Oh, wow.
So bringing the total to 6.
So one
Oh,
pilot?
gosh.
And
members
NYPD
of
Commissioner
one family,
Jessica Tisch
including
confirmed
children.
the total number of deaths.
Okay.
So after the initial shock and grief, the next step is to try to figure out what caused this.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
And Michael Roth, who's the CEO of New York Helicopter Charter, he shared some of his initial thoughts.
Okay.
And it was really interesting because he pointed out that in the crash footage, there are no main rotor blades.
What, really?
Yeah.
The main rotor blades are gone?
Yeah, he said he's never seen anything like that.
Wow.
Which, makes you think this was a really unusual situation.
Yeah.
And he speculated about possible causes, like a bird strike or a main rotor blade failure.
Right.
But he also said, he has no clue what really happened.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
At this stage. Yeah.
Another thing that's interesting is that the pilot had made a radio call shortly before the crash requesting to land and refuel.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. And the report notes that there was a discrepancy between the expected arrival time,
Uh-huh.
and the fact that the helicopter never made it back to the heliport. So that radio call kind of suggests that there may have been a problem very early on in the flight.
Yeah, it's hard to know, but you start to wonder, like, if the pilot had noticed something was off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe tried to, like, take a precaution.
Right, like maybe he saw something or felt something
Yeah,
and
startle.
thought, I need to land
Maybe,
just
that
in
maybe.
case.
Yeah. That's really eerie.
It is really eerie.
Yeah.
So Mayor Eric Adams offered his condolences.
Okay.
And Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop confirmed that the Jersey City Police Department is leading the initial investigation
Okay.
until the NTSB arrives.
Right. The National Transportation Safety Board.
Right. For anyone who's not familiar with that,
Yeah.
that's the U.S. government agency that investigates transportation accidents.
Right. Plane crashes, train crashes, things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, the report talks about the history of helicopter operations in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyone who's been to New York or even seen pictures of it, you see these helicopters all the time.
You do. They're all over, yeah.
Especially around Manhattan.
Right.
There are multiple helipads there
Okay.
to support both business and tourism.
Right. Yeah, they're, taking people on tours, taking executives to meetings and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the report also points out that there have been at least 32 deaths in helicopter crashes in New York City since 1977.
Wow.
So it really kind of highlights the potential dangers there.
32 deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they specifically mentioned the 2018 East River crash,
Right.
where all 5 passengers died.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And the NTSB investigation in that case revealed a very unusual cause.
What was it?
The tail of the helicopter became entangled with the fuel shutoff lever,
Oh, wow.
which caused the helicopter to invert and the passengers drowned.
Oh, my goodness.
So it just shows that even these seemingly improbable mechanical failures can have really catastrophic consequences.
Right. It's like, we always think of, engine failure or something like that.
Right.
But you don't really think about,
The tail getting tangled.
like a freak accident like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that after that crash, there was a very detailed investigation, and I'm sure they made safety recommendations.
Right.
But then, we see this happen again.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, are there gaps in the current safety measures or the oversight?
Yeah. Are we doing enough is the question.
Right.
Yeah.
And the report kind of frames this latest event as another stark reminder of the dangers of recreational helicopter flights.
Right.
Over a densely populated area like New York City.
Yeah.
And, it makes you think about, the balance between, the economic benefits of tourism.
Right.
And the risks involved.
Yeah. It's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, ultimately, beyond all of the technical investigations, the report concludes with this really powerful thought.
Yeah.
Which is, the profound loss for the city and especially for the community of Barcelona.
Yeah.
You lost an entire family.
Right.
So it really brings the human cost of this tragedy to the forefront.
It does, yeah.
So to kind of wrap up this deep dive, we've looked at, who the victims were, the timeline of events,
Right.
those eyewitness accounts,
Right.
some of the initial reactions and possible contributing factors.
Right.
And we've looked at it within the historical context of helicopter safety in New York City.
Yeah, and for me, what really sticks out is, how quickly this all happened.
Right.
And how the helicopter seems
Comment
to
your
have just
thoughts on this
disintegrated
story.
in midair.
Right.
And the fact that the main rotor blades were missing from the wreckage.
Right.
That combined with the pilot's request to land and refuel really suggests that there's a lot more to uncover here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, considering everything that we've discussed,
Yeah.
speed of the crash, the details about the rotor blades, the history of similar accidents in the city,
Right.
what questions do you have about the safety and oversight of air travel
Right.
in these really complex urban environments?
It's, a lot to think about.
It is.
Yeah. And, if anyone listening is interested in learning more, I think it'd be helpful to look at the NTSB reports
Okay.
from previous helicopter crashes in New York City,
Okay.
especially the 2018 East River crash.
Right.
That might give you some more insights into the investigative process.
Right.
And the kinds of safety recommendations that they make.
Right.
You could also look into the regulations around air tourism in major cities,
Okay.
to get a better understanding of, what the framework is.
Right.
And are there any areas that need improvement?
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
So as always, our goal is to take these initial reports,
Yeah.
go a little deeper,
Yeah.
provide some context,
Right.
and raise some important questions.
Absolutely.
So until our next deep dive, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
For listening, everybody.